All right, everyone, just getting some caffeine, ready to get started because it is Thanksgiving food prep time. So everyone, good morning. Welcome back into the kitchen. I know that all of us are probably a bit stressed right now, trying to figure out how can we stick to our diets well as we see the holiday season incoming. There are so many opportunities for us to be led astray. Today, here in the Anabolic Lab, we're going to be doing a Thanksgiving staple of the pumpkin pie. Unlike others, like for instance Remington James's pumpkin pie recipe, which was more of a cheesecake, this pumpkin pie will be more of a custard-based pie. So it will be able to give you more of that expected experience and texture that you get from a traditional pumpkin pie. So let me take another sip of coffee, sweetened with pumpkin spice sweetener, and let's dive into the ingredients for the crust. To make our crust, we are going to be using coconut flour, all-purpose flour, protein cookie butter powder in the golden cookie flavor, powdered almond butter. If you do not have the protein cookie butter powder and do not want to get it, substitute that amount with a mixture of powdered almond butter and all-purpose flour. Salt, no calorie sweetener, non-fat plain Greek yogurt, light, I can't believe it's not butter, and ice cold water. First, we are going to start off with 20 grams of our all-purpose flour. We will also add 20 grams of our coconut flour. This doesn't really reduce the calories, but it does increase the fiber. Then we add 50 grams of the protein cookie butter powder and 20 grams of the powdered almond butter. 7 grams of our no-calorie sweetener, 50 grams of the I can't believe it's not butter, 100 grams of the non-fat Greek yogurt, and a couple shakes of salt. Now we're going to pulse this in our food processor and gradually add in some of our cold water until it forms a dough consistency. So everyone, sorry about that. I actually just realized that I didn't record when I was making the dough. I thought I was, but I wasn't. Once we've made our crust, the next thing we need to do is get it added to the pie pan. To help it spread around a little bit better, we're going to use nonstick spray. We're also going to nonstick spray down our utensil so that it doesn't stick. And once you have it pretty much close, just try to tidy it up so it looks nice. Note that there isn't quite enough dough to have the crust that goes over the edge, but that's okay. If you wanted to get that crust you're used to that comes all the way up, you could add about another 10% to each of the quantities, and that would work. Now that the crust is all put into the pan, we are going to put it into a 325-degree oven for 15 minutes, so that the crust can get a bit cooked before we add in the custard filling. To make our pie filling, we are going to be using 1 egg, egg whites, vanilla extract, no calorie sweetener, pumpkin pie spice, sea salt, Walden Farms pancake syrup, brown sugar replacement, fat-free evaporated milk, pumpkin puree, and 3 scoops of protein. I am using samplers because that way I didn't have to buy a whole bunch of the protein that I'm going to be using. I'm using a mixture of pumpkin pie and cinnamon roll protein powders here. The first thing we're going to be doing to make our filling is actually toasting up some of our pumpkin pie spice. I'll just do a few shakes in here. By toasting the spice, it will help to bring out more of the flavors and give it a richer character. And after a few minutes, your spice should look pretty much the same, but you should get a huge amount of aroma from the spice toasting up. To make our filling, we're going to start off by first mixing together our liquid ingredients. So we'll start off with the whole can of evaporated milk. Then we are going to add 30 grams of our pancake syrup. Then we add a whole can of pumpkin puree. Once we've added our pumpkin puree, we'll add some vanilla extract. I'm going to go with 2 capfuls. Then we add 92 grams of egg whites. Now that we have all of those main wet ingredients in, except for the whole egg, the next thing we need to add in is our replacement brown sugar. We are going to be putting 40 grams into our mixture and whisking it in so that we can break down all of the brown sugar and get it into solution. Now that we have our fake brown sugar in, we are going to whisk it all together. Really be sure to feel for any brown sugar lumps so you can get those broken down. Now that all of our brown sugar is mixed in, we are going to add 40 grams of our regular no-calorie sweetener. Then we're going to whisk all that together. Now that we have all of our sweetener mixed in, it's time for us to add the 1 egg that we are adding in here. Take special care to make sure that you get the yolk popped and whisk it in. Now we have to add in a few shakes of salt and our toasted spices, and we'll get that whisked all together. Now we are finally adding in the protein powders. Again, for reference, I am using 1 scoop of cinnamon roll protein powder and 2 scoops of pumpkin pie protein powder. To make sure that everything mixes in nicely, we are going to mix in between each of our scoops being added in. With the 3rd scoop added, now you want to make sure that you get every last clump mixed in thoroughly. And there you have it. Now it's time for us to load it into our crust and pop it in the oven. Well, it seems like that was a little bit too much batter. Oh well, now that our crust is loaded up, we are going to finish it with just a small shake of our pumpkin pie spice. Then we are going to put it back into our 325-degree oven, this time for about 70 minutes. So some really quick chef's notes. If I were going to be remaking this now with what I have discovered, I would actually be using 366 grams of the pumpkin puree and only 300 grams of the evaporated milk. That would give us enough room for everything to fit within the crust and within the pie pan sufficiently well. So while this one is going, and we'll see what that looks like with all of the ingredients as I presented them, that's how I would change it to make it come out and fit perfectly in the future. And there we have it. After it's 70 minutes in the oven, it's passed the toothpick test and it is ready to cool off. After it's been sitting out for about a half hour or so, I'm going to put it into the fridge and let it sit for another few hours, at least 3 or 4, before getting to cut into it. So I will see you then. All right, it's had a few hours in the fridge. Let's take a look and cut it open. All right, will you look at that? Look at that real crust in there and that filling. Woo-wee! And of course, as we know, it's not pumpkin pie without whipped cream. All right, everyone. So I'm sure you're all curious what the nutrition facts are like. So here they are for just 1 slice, and here they are for the entire pie. So without further ado, let's give it a shot. Oh my goodness. That texture is just perfect. What can I say? It's a pumpkin pie. It's not a wannabe pumpkin pie that's really something else. This is a legitimate pumpkin pie. I think that if you were to bring this to a family gathering, legitimately, nobody would expect it to be anything other than a pumpkin pie. Let's see if that can autofocus. But, oh my goodness. The filling, the airiness. I'm so happy right now. Given the craziness that ensued with trying to get the crust to work out right and trying to make sure that the filling didn't overflow as it just barely fit into the pan. Turns out that it worked out okay. So while I do still hold to those recommendations for downsizing it, if you're willing to play it a little bit risky, it absolutely works. All right, so I'm gonna finish eating this. Stay thankful this Thanksgiving and happy Thanksgiving. And everyone, until the next one, always remember to stay worthy.